Good evening. We'll be led in the pledge by Ms. BOE.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent meditation. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Ms. BOE.
Here.
Mr. Bergarelli.
Here.
Mr. Duray. Ms. Green. Mr. Howard. Mr. Lamar.
Here.
Mr. Levenstein. Here. Ms. Paletti.
Here.
Mrs. Tradian.
Here. We have a student recognition. Does anybody know who's being recognized tonight? Dr. Farrell?
We have extraordinarily talented and competent students in our district. And this evening, I'd like to introduce Jason McAllister, who is our NFA Secondary Guidance Counselor Coordinator, to introduce 3 students to you.
Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to you 3 outstanding students. We'd like to recognize our students for their academic achievements in the classroom and also on assessments. So this recognition is for the PSAT. It is a national test, and they have been nationally recognized for their outstanding achievements in the classroom and their outstanding achievement in that assessment test. So we would like to congratulate our students. Our first one here is, we'd like to recognize Armand Aurelio. And also, I think it's vitally important, they would like for you to stand. Please come to the front. And also, it is vitally important that we recognize the substance and structure behind the students, which is Aurelio's mother and father and his younger brother. I also would like to recognize, I don't know if Joseph Gaeto is here this afternoon. We'd like to recognize Joseph as well. And our other student is Zoe Vermeister Jimenez. And we appreciate the enthusiasm, so we would like for you to also recognize Zoe's mother as well. So on behalf of the Guidance Department, I would like to say thank you very much, and we appreciate you, and congratulations.
And while I'm not certain if our music students are with us this evening, I'd also like to recognize 2 of our NFA students who will be participating in the All-State Ensemble program in Rochester, November 30th to December 3rd. There are thousands of applicants from across the state, and 2 of our students have been selected to represent us and music within our state. First is Grace Musante. She's here. She will take part as a second soprano in the mixed chorus event. She's a grade 11 student at Maine. And then we have a grade 12 student at Maine, Julian Lamar, who will be participating in vocal jazz. Thank you.
We have a recognition for Mid-Hudson Schools Study Council Support Staff Award for Excellence, Miss Valerie Morrison.
Yeah, before we take a picture, I'd like to beg your indulgence to just say a few words about Miss Morrison. Val is a principal typist in our district. She completes all necessary administrative tasks for the assistant superintendent, including clerical support for content area directors grades 6 through 12, district-wide, fine and performing arts, and our athletics director. She coordinates budget activities with our business office, processes conference requests, field trips, and professional development for staff members. Support is also provided for all Newburgh Teacher Center activities, which includes professional development, communication, and grant applications. She further helps prepare board committee agendas, information for board review, and assists in coordinating community outreach and communication. She has provided in-residence clerical support at the building level on opening a new school site last year, in addition to her central office duties September through October. She essentially worked 2 jobs. She completes all tasks assigned with competence and a positive attitude, and initiates necessary work without direction. She's worked with 4 assistant superintendents in the past 5 years and adjusted to both modifications within her work assignments as well as personality and stylistic differences among her supervisor, and she tolerates me, which is wonderful. On a personal level, Ms. Morrison is supportive and proactive in managing the business of the division. She has a ready smile and a we-can-do-it attitude that's refreshing and assists in setting a welcoming and affirming environment in our district. She's often the first-level contact at central office for parental concerns and works to set a positive tone for parents and community members. Val is completing 24 years of service to our district. On behalf of all of us, I wish her thank you and a happy and healthy retirement as she moves forward in retirement in the spring of this year. Let's take a picture.
Moving on to comment on agenda items. We have 2 people signed up so far. Caitlin Lazarski.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mack.
My name is Caitlin Lazarski. I am a resident of the town of Newburgh, an NFA graduate of the class of 2000, daughter of parents of the class of 1970 and 1971, granddaughter of NFA graduates of the classes of 1942, January 1944, June of 1944, and June of 1949. I am married to an NTA educator and who is an NFA alum of the class of 2001, and we are parents to children attending Newburgh schools. I give you all of this information so that you know that my connection and commitment to Newburgh runs deep, and it has made my decision to resign from my position as school lunch director a difficult one. I do feel that this decision is in the best interest of my career and my family at this time, but before I go, I want to make sure that the board and the community are aware of all of the amazing work that my department does and the wonderful people behind the scenes that make it happen. I can't look at them or I will cry. Over the past 9 years, I have had the privilege of leading the most dedicated and hardworking individuals in our schools. These ladies and our few good men impact every student multiple times a day, every day, for years at a time. I can't think of any other school staff positions that have the ability to make that type of an impact. My wonderful staff took every idea and program that I brought to them and made them all realities for our students. To recap the past 9 years, the food service department provided access to free meals for all students in Newburgh, removing the stigma and barriers to participation in the programs. We brought breakfast out of the cafeterias and into the classrooms to make sure that all students had access to a healthy start of the school day. We work with the Newburgh Free Library, the City of Newburgh Recreation Department, the Town of Newburgh Recreation Department, the Boys and Girls Club of Newburgh, the Newburgh Housing Authorities, and the Newburgh Armory to provide kids with access to meals during the summer months. We work with our UPK community partners to provide our youngest scholars with the same access to nutritious meals that our in-district students have during the school day. We provide after-school meals and snacks for all in-district after-school programming and programming at the Newburgh Armory. Our pre-K through 5 students are provided with fresh fruit and veggie snacks twice a week, and all of this happens in addition to the 8,000 seed scratch meals that our school meal heroes serve daily. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the over 3 million meals and snacks our school meal heroes served curbside during the pandemic. When everyone was told to stay home and school buildings were locked, my staff came in to serve our community in a way that no one could have imagined. The food service staff The food service staff, along with our friends in security and buildings and grounds, orchestrated weekly curbside meal pickups that served hundreds of NECSD families during one of the most difficult times in our lives. Over my 9-year tenure, the C Fund has grown from $6 million budget to an over $11 million budget. The food service department has run independently from the general fund, meaning that all expenses for the department, including salaries and the over $3 million in serving line and cafeteria renovations, have been covered with the revenue that the department brings in from federal and state funding. In addition to our regular reimbursement dollars, this department has secured over $1.25 million in grants to support and further invest in these meal programs. We have provided higher quality foods, introduced additional food programs, and added new equipment and cafeteria spaces for our students to enjoy. Tonight I ask that the district and the board take care of the wonderful staff in our food service department. The funding that the C Fund receives has been able to reinvest in every budget line except the salary lines. We need you to reinvest those funds into the wonderfully dedicated people that make it all happen. Many of our CSEA members are your forever goldbacks. Many are lifelong residents of Newburgh with children and grandchildren in our schools. Now is the time, during CSEA negotiations, to make sure that the operations staff that make our buildings run are provided with fair and equitable wages. That these people are provided training opportunities for advancement so that they can continue to serve our schools and our community. Please appreciate the work they do. Just because they make it look seamless doesn't mean the work is easy. Finally, I would like to publicly thank the food service staff for their support of me and for their service to our students. You are the most amazing group of people, and I am so honored to have had you by my side. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart.
David Rain.
Thank you. Good evening, David Ryan, Newburgh, New York. I'm going to keep it brief tonight. First of all, you guys are fantastic. I also went through those lunch lines as an NFA graduate in '88. I'm also the spouse of an NTA employee, and you have my utmost respect for what you've done over these years. And respect is shown in many ways. A contract would be nice. I stood here a month ago or so and chastised you about not having a contract for the CSEA and the NTA. And to this date, you still don't have a contract for the CSEA or the NTA. That's a real slap in the face to people that are dedicated and hardworking and there for the children. Yet we found it incumbent upon ourselves to ingratiate and increase the salaries of several people sitting up before us tonight. Yet we can't put a contract together for the people that are there serving the children. We can't put a contract for the people that are in the classroom serving the children. Are we here for ourselves or the children? So that was the one point I had tonight. The second point was 5.3 and 5.6. I served as a board member. I don't want to make this about me, so I won't. But as a former board member, I have a little institutional knowledge, and I just find it disconcerting. I won't go with baffling, but disconcerting that the superintendent would now be assigning people to committees. I served with Annette, rest her soul, and Annette let the board president, who I think is here actually at the time, I think Annette let the board president run that business of assigning people to the committees. And then I look at 5.6, and it looks like a railroad because they've already got the committee selected and assigned, and it looks like you already got the votes in place. When did the business of children become politicized? Are we here for ourselves or the kids? These people are here for the kids. I've seen it. They serve them every day. The teachers are here for every day for the kids. But I see squabbling and infighting and positioning and politicking. I'm asking you, I'm not going to get crazy, I'm not going to get all boisterous. Let's do the business of the children, not the business of our own pocketbooks. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on agenda items? If not, I'll move on to non-agenda items. First one on the list is Ray Harvey. Oh, I'm sorry, Dawn Fuchek. Yeah,
Good evening, everyone. And Caitlin, congratulations to you. You will be so missed. You have no idea. And thank you to all of you for everything you do every single day. We do really appreciate you, and I know you're really going to miss her as well. So hang in there, guys. Under former leadership, public comments were moved to the beginning of the agenda to be more considerate of the community's time. While I understand and appreciate this gesture, Now, because public comment is prior to the board's discussion of the agenda items, the community does not have the opportunity to speak, if they wish to, on things they may have heard during your discussion of the agenda items. One way to address this might be to consider moving back to a workshop model meeting structure. In a workshop meeting, while there is no public comment, the board discusses all agenda items in detail in public. Then at the regular board meeting, the public can speak to anything they heard at the workshop meeting and can more clearly speak to the agenda items. While this model may make your one meeting a little bit longer, it expedites your business meeting significantly. In addition, out of respect for the public's time, I would ask that you consider having only one executive session at the end of your agenda. I was happy to see the proposed committee structure on tonight's agenda. I noted that the proposed committee assignments seem to be a bit more fairly distributed and reflective of board members' personal areas of expertise. This is certainly a positive step and in the right direction for this board. The creation of committees will encourage collaboration between the board members, the superintendent, and senior staff. It will help to foster and establish trust. I encourage you to use your committee work as an opportunity to get to know one another, to build trust, and to collaborate. Your work done at the committee level can be used to move this district forward in a unified direction. Thank you.
Ray Harvey.
Good afternoon, everyone. At the last board meeting, I didn't speak because I was angry. And I don't like to speak when it comes from that, right? Because, you know, you have to center yourself. But during these last couple of weeks, I done heard all kinds of stories. One was, during that meeting, I said, white teachers don't deserve a pay raise. I don't know who said that, or where that came from, but they need to come in front of me. Because I would never say that if you know who I am. Obviously, the person that is saying that don't know who I am. Then I see things in Facebook. Listen, I keep standing here and says, make it make sense. Going on Facebook, trashing other board members does not make sense to me. Does not make sense to me. And on top of that, to have people to say that a man of color cannot drive a nice car and live in a house in New Windsor because he's from the city of Newburgh, born and bred it, is crazy to me. It's crazy to me. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the gentleman you're talking about is the guy who I want the kids in the school district to look up to, because most of them look like him, right? And they can see that they can, if they do the right thing, right, and not out here gang banging and selling drugs and all of that crazy stuff, that they can achieve the American dream, right? So let's stay off of Facebook, right? And let's, this board is a mess. It's an understatement. I don't know it can be fixed. Serious. I have been on a lot of boards. And to see grown folks not acting grown is crazy to me, right? And stop belittling the superintendent in public, please. That doesn't look good for anybody. For anybody. I'm here to tell you, it doesn't look good for anybody. Because that's not what we're supposed to do, right? if you got a problem with structure, and I work for the biggest employer in the world, and I'm retired now, thank God, was the federal government. We had to go behind closed doors and discuss with our director, supervisor, whoever, if we was having problems. We would never, if I did that, I wouldn't have had a job, or I would have been kicked off the boards. Because we don't do that. That's not professional. And we're supposed to be professionals. We cannot expect I don't like to call these young folks kids. We can't expect young folks that we supposed to be setting an example to do the right thing when we acting like we childs ourselves, like we kids ourselves, right? Because they looking for us, for leadership, for direction. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. Not sitting here going at each other's throat. Again, and I'd like to piggyback on the work session, because I go to the ones in City Hall, and we know what the next agenda is going to be about, right? And so we can speak on it. We don't have to talk. We can sit there and listen, and maybe that'll help y'all work together if it's a bunch of us sitting in there. You won't act too crazy. I don't know. But I know we got to get this right, because I'm here for the kids. I'm here for these young minds that we had some of them to stand up here tonight. In spite of all of the craziness, we still have great minds in this district that's doing great things. So we got to learn to work together so that we can do what we're supposed to do, which is make sure every young folk that go across that academy is ready for the next level of their life, whether it's education or trade school. Thank you.
And then Carla.
Good evening. How everybody doing today? So, piggybacking off of what Ray Harvey said, I'm here tonight because I feel some type of way about, I don't know if I'm supposed to call names out, but the vice president, a vice president's leadership. Everyone looks up to the vice president. I just feel that putting someone on blast in social media is really not good. Remember the last social media thing, it went viral. People lost their job with pay, was suspended with pay. I just feel that looking at the message, looking at what it gave this person as a board member, you kind of made him hot in the community by saying what time he gets up and leaves. He has a $400,000 house. He drives an Escalade. That's a target. But then in a good way, he's a black man who came from the community, from the bottom, and he made it to the top because he's able to afford a $400,000 house. He drives an Escalade. He looks sharp. He helps the community. My son looked at it and said, "Ma, look at this." I said, "Wow." He said, "When I graduate from NFA, I want to get me a $400,000 house and drive an Escalade too." I said, "Look, it's possible here in the city of Newburgh." And I want to say, Mr. Howard, I just want to thank you as a brown sister. You look good in the community. We should have more of you on this board that look like you, that represents the people that live here in this community. You guys are here for the children. Set an example for the children. Be leadership. Come together. Stop always talking bad about the superintendent too, because she leads the show. Even though you guys are all together, she's a part of the team. Y'all all team players. And my child goes to school in this district, and I'm trusting everyone here to do right so that everything could go right with my child. One day she could go across that stage. Let's work together, not work against each other. Let's stay off of social media. None of y'all, and everybody on this panel, even the superintendent, if you got people in your camp and they putting false information out, or they talking about people, you really can control that. Your camp should be saying like, look, I'm in a leadership position. Let's act professional. Let's do what we got to do. So I'm asking everyone here, let's stay off of social media. Let's not put people down. We are here to lift the people up. And the people that we're trying to lift up is the young kids. Thank you. And I also want to say, I need everybody here to remember her name. Her name is London Johnson. She's a kid in your district, and she's brown, and she's going to be successful here in your district. So always remember that.
I believe the first name is Gabrielle Hill.
Good evening, everyone. To be here, hi. First of all, I just want to say, in 1963, the powers that be decided to enlarge our city school district. And since that time, there has been many superintendents. But Newburgh is a city of first. We had the first African-American female mayor in the state. That is something to be proud of. And now, we have our very first African-American brown female as our superintendent, and that should be celebrated. We are showing everyone around us that change is happening, and change does not always feel good. However, change is necessary for the evolvement of us as human beings. Positions, power, privilege is going to be shaken, but we will all be better for it if we embrace the uncomfortability of the change and really remember why we are here. And it has been said that we are here for our children, which is basically our future. I want each and every child, including my own, and my grandchildren and yours, to succeed. I am not always going to be this young and vibrant. I am going to need them, their expertise, their mind. I don't know about you, but I am not tech savvy. So I need these young minds and their energy. But it starts with us. They are looking to us to lead and guide them and to be an example of what human beings who treat each other with respect looks like. You're not doing them a favor by being here. It's your honor to serve, not the other way around. So I don't want to belabor what's already been said, but we should applaud that Newburgh has a black female superintendent, the first, hopefully not the last. And that doesn't mean it takes anything away from anyone else, but let's find ways to celebrate instead of destroy. With that being said, Board President, I do apologize. There is a resolution that I now see that I want to speak on, and I'll do so briefly. The HOPE project. Come on, hope. And that is what our children need. They see enough bickering on social media, Snapchat, IG, all those other things I can't remember. So they're looking for us for hope, guidance, care, love, understanding, and compassion. And I support this project 100%. Ms. Rogers, I must tell you, my granddaughter participated in the girls' basketball program, and I can't tell you how her confidence level went way up. She was born without a left arm. So we strive very hard to make sure, hey, you're just as important, just as smart, just as talented as people with two arms. So everything that we can do to help bolster that confidence and self-esteem for all children is very important, and I support that. Lastly, last night I was appointed unanimously to sit on the Newburgh Transportation Advisory Committee. And one of the things that I would like to partner with the school district with is providing, especially our NFA main students or students with free bus passes, to get to school and also to come to the library. Taxis are now $8 one way. So a round trip could be $16. If I have to get to the library 3 or 4 times, you're talking over $50 a week just for one child. So I promise to work with you on that. And again, we're not going to agree on everything, but we can disagree with respect and dignity and integrity so we can move forward and be that shining light, because all eyes on Newburgh. So let's give them something to look at. Sorry, I might have to leave at 7:20. I'm the caretaker of 4 generations in my house. My mother has a regular feeding schedule, so I might have to bounce out around 7:15. So please forgive me. It's not being disrespect, but I'm going to try to get some coverage so that I can stay for the entire meetings moving forward. Congratulations. Well done. I wish you were there when I was eating the food.
Would anyone else like to speak on non-agenda items? Yes.
It's all right. Thank you. Hi. Hi, Tracy Wallace. I live in Newburgh. I have one daughter NFA North, one that recently graduated, and 2 in GAMS. I wasn't going to speak, but then I thought about it. When I looked up social media to find agenda items and meetings, and I was looking up stuff, I come across posts and arguments that are public on Facebook. There are videos. It's not just posts that are bad, it's people on the board are posting information and then commenting on the information. I don't know what, as members of the board, I would think that you would have some kind of morals or ethics to say to yourself, what message am I getting? Are you trying to get fans? Are you trying to get likes? Are you trying to, I don't understand why must we put on social media things that can hurt other board members. I'm actually going to look into this as much as I can with the state to see if the state can see if you guys are allowed to set forth videos of comments about people. Mr. Howard, I did not know that they had said all that stuff until today. That is very disrespectful. I know we wouldn't want anyone to comment with anyone else's car or where they live, right, on social media. So I would think if you wouldn't want it done to yourselves, why do it to other people? City of Newburgh, Mr. Howard is not just on the board. I don't mean to just go on him, but he goes to a lot of events in the city of Newburgh, which would be appreciative if you're going to be on a board. I would think I would see you at some of the events, some of the games, just in anywhere. And I don't see anyone anywhere on the weekends. I see you here, but I don't see any community engagement. I don't feel like you really understand Newburgh. I still am puzzled as to why you continue to come here and what your agenda is. Like, why are you here? I don't understand that either. Because if you're so against so many things in the city of Newburgh, I don't understand what your agenda is. If it's for the children, then can you please start posting about the kids and what maybe nice post events that you would like to see, videos about positive things? Because if I can look it up, my kids can look it up. If I can look up information, say City of Newburgh, and say they're looking up something for their school, and they go on Facebook, Mom, one of my friends is on Facebook, can I look up City of Newburgh? And Mom, what is all this that I didn't get this in school? What is this video? What is this? They're going to also see it. They're going to also question. We are role models. They look up to you. Maybe they want to be in your place one day. Maybe they also would want to run for the board. And this is not the image that should be shown to the city of Newburgh kids. And I encourage you to go to games. There's a game I know my kids are on the Newburgh Steelers. They play NFA Maine on Saturday. Maybe you can go to that game and see how the community comes together. Even though it's Newburgh Steelers and Newburgh Goldbacks and we're going against each other, we're still Newburgh. We're still two Newburgh teams. And what do? We bring our snacks, we hug each other, we say, hey, from across. There's a game on Thursday, NFA Maine. All of the kids from all over are going to be there this Thursday's game. That is a beautiful event that you should attend and see how loving the community is when they come together. Instead of going on Facebook to trash everything, why don't you go to the events and post how great that event was? That's all. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on non-agenda items?
I'm pressing this. Okay, I did it right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to speak on two topics. Last board meeting, I brought up something that I thought was a newspaper article, and I was corrected. It wasn't a newspaper article, it was an email. And the vice president responded saying that maybe one of the board members gave it to me, but I stand firm that none of the board members gave it to me. In that article, or in that email, I stated, I made a comment on why would you put the narrative out there that the security guards were not doing their job and keeping our children safe. And your response was to me that my comment and my false information is the reason why the board is at discord. For you to put that blame on me is totally absurd. You're the reason why the board is at discord. All 9 of you, because you sit up here, you bicker, and you fight every board meeting. Every board meeting, we're in here till 10 and 11 and 12 o'clock at night, when now our kids have to go to school in the morning and we have to wake up to go to work in the morning. You're the reason. All of you are the reason that the board is at discord. Now, here goes the receipts. In that email, while you did praise one guard from South Junior High, you also mentioned that you guys were going back and forth on the discussion on this topic, and you wanted to make everyone aware where there may be shortfalls. I don't think I need to describe that or explain what shortfalls mean. You're saying there's a shortfall within the security system, within the security guards, with our district. So you are insinuating, you said it in your own email. Second of all, Ms. Carla spoke and Ms. Tracy spoke concerning Mr. Howard. Again, he is the leader of the community, as you stated on your post. And I watched, as Carla stated, about his address and everything being posted. She said that you posted it, and I watched you shake your head. I'm going to read the comment. Yes, he lives on Summit, across the street from me. See him every morning at 8:10. I hope he heard at the board meeting for y'all to go back to town of New Windsor and town of Newburgh, because it's him. He's a resident of New Windsor driving his Escalade, proclaiming to be for the black and brown kids. And when he sits pretty in his $400,000 house, he should buy that kid a desk that doesn't have one so he can do his homework. Hypocrite. And yes, you know exactly who you are, but I don't want to get sued. So if the shoe fits, wear it, a-hole. This was made by your daughter, Victoria Boulay. You were aware of it. I'm sure you've seen it. If you didn't, okay. So we're going to stand with if you didn't see it. So now that you know it, as a fellow board member, I would think it will be your duty to respect your board members and go and tell your daughter to take that information down, because anyone could look at that, go at his house, and do something to him, and then that will be on you. The same way you said you would like for all of your board members to come together and respect each other, why wouldn't you respect him? If your information was put out there, you wouldn't feel threatened. I wouldn't want my personal information to put out there. He has a wife, he has his family there. I think that was very inappropriate. You also made a video about a comment, I guess maybe you and him emailed each other, I don't know, talking about him attacking your mental health and insinuated that he was attacking the community's mental health. I can't really make a comment on that because as a person that's going to therapy myself, I don't want to touch that because that's a sensitive area. And if that is something you dealt with, my heart goes out to you like it goes out to myself and many other members of the community that is dealing with mental health. Also, The contract for the CSEA members and the teachers and the staff. Like I said, I'm not a member of the New Bergen Large City School District, thank God. Y'all need to get it together and give these people what they are asking for if it is reasonable. They are coming here, they are putting their lives on their line to protect the children. They are teaching the children the best way that they know how with some of these programs that I don't even understand how y'all put through because adults don't even understand it, and then y'all don't send the kids home with books or anything. So they're doing their best. Let's see what we can work out with these contracts to get them what they need so they can come to work and show up, because as an employee and as a teacher, if I don't have a contract or if I feel I'm not getting paid right or if I feel I'm not getting the right supplies, whatever have you, it's going to make my job very hard. Let's work out these contracts and see what we can do. And let's, again, respect the superintendent. Whether you agree with her or not, let's give her the respect, because at the end of the day, we're looking at all of y'all. And if y'all don't respect each other, why would any of y'all kids respect each other? Why would the community respect y'all? Nobody's going to respect y'all if y'all can't even respect each other as a board. And I would hope by the end of tonight, Mr. Howard's personal information is taken down. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on non-agenda items? Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby recesses into executive session for the following purpose: discussion regarding current litigation, SB versus NECSD Index EF 007920-2019, AK versus NECSD Index EF 001273-2020, Almodovar versus Dr. Manning Campbell and New Bergen Large City School District, case number 723 CB 07187 PMH, employment history of particular individuals, collective bargaining under the Taylor Law, CSCA, 30 Argenio Drive LLC, 45 Argenio Drive LLC versus the Town of New Windsor and the NCSD, Manufacturers and Trade Trust Company and First Town of Newburgh and the NCSD, and to obtain advice from legal counsel. Can I have a motion and a second, please? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lamar? Yes. Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Pawletti?
Yes.
Mrs. Straight-Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard?
We'll be back probably about 1 hour, hour and 20 minutes, roughly. Thank you.
Mr. President, can I,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Howard.
Yeah, I'd like to move to make an amendment to the agenda.
We're at the superintendent's section on the agenda.
Right, but I want to amend the agenda.
At the superintendent section?
No, from the entire agenda, I wanted to amend the agenda.
What would you like to amend?
I would like to move 5.6 from the superintendent to 7.6 under board president.
No, this was discussed with the superintendent. So this is a superintendent proposal.
Right, but I would like a motion to amend the agenda.
Mr. Shaw, can he move it to a spot that's a proposal for the superintendent?
The agenda is set by the superintendent, the board president, and the board clerk. And if this is how it was set, I believe this is how it should be determined at this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
I support the move. If it will make the meeting flow better for the board members, I support the move, to move it from my section.
This is a proposal from the superintendent, so I'm not sure why it would be moved under board president.
Okay, can we speak to it?
If the superintendent, the board president, and the clerk agree to make that move, then I think it could be made. Otherwise, it makes sense to leave it where it is.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Dr. Manning Campbell.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for waiting and being here tonight. I would like to take a minute to clarify and express my disappointment towards some false statements that were made at the podium during the public comment section of our last meeting. An assemblyman and retired teacher spoke adamantly and passionately last week. However, the information he shared with the public was simply false. The $27 million, which was referenced in his speech, was part of years of litigation with the state for school districts like ours to receive full foundation aid. The amount referenced was provided by Governor Hochul in February, and our budget discussions were formed based on that estimation. In fact, in May, our district received slightly less than the $27 million that was originally estimated. In his statement, funding for our school meals program was confused. The large bulk of our budget for school meals comes from the federal government, not the state or local budget. I would like to remind our community that our district has not raised the school tax levy for the past 9 school years. It saddens and alarms me that an elected official would speak so adamantly in a way that confuses and upsets our taxpayers by implying that funds are being misappropriated when the information is undeniably wrong. As always, the details regarding the district's budget process and specifics can be found on the district's website and are discussed in public during our budget season. The district is transparent about this process and relies on the help of all of our stakeholders to remain informed so they can play their part in educating every Goldback every day. Next, my team will begin sharing divisional updates for you and the community on a regular basis. Tonight, let's begin with our Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Forget.
Thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell, and thank you for the opportunity for our team to express and share with the community the work that we've been doing. Each of us will be presenting to you 2 to 3 different projects or initiatives that we're championing in the district to give you an update to make sure that you have a full awareness of the progress that's being made in the direction that we're taking in the school district. Under my leadership in our superintendent's office, we're working on the strategic plan. Specifically, we have adopted most of the scorecard, which are the measures that we will collect, the data we'll collect throughout the year to determine whether we're making an impact on what we said we were going to. The grade 3 through 8 ELA and math scores are in. They're embargoed. I can't share them. But I can tell you that we are currently in the process of setting the targets for where we hope to hit this year based on understanding our baseline from last year. We also are working on something we're calling data chats. 4 times a year, each principal of the school will come and meet with the executive team, and they will talk about 3 specific data points. Number 1, attendance. We'll discuss how well attendance is going in the school, whether they're making progress towards achieving a 95%, a 93%, or a 90% attendance rate for students. We'll be monitoring and supporting the data around faculty and staff and teacher attendance as well. We'll also be taking a look at student behavior and monitoring the behavior in each of the schools to figure out what type of resources we need to put into each of the schools so that we're not waiting until June to address issues that might be arising. And the final data point that we'll be discussing on a quarterly basis with each of the principals would be around academic intervention services. We want to make sure that if a student is in need of academic intervention services, we're placing those students into the programs now, and then we're monitoring it throughout the year so that they're not required to sit in a class that they may not need. They may test out mid-year. They may test out after 10 weeks. We want to make sure that we're doing what's right for our students based on the data and the progress that they're making. Data chats will occur 4 times a year, and those are the 3 data points that we'll be talking about. My last item, we initiated the poverty training in the district for the first time. We really are focusing on the economically disadvantaged student population in the school district. We are using Dr. Ruby Payne research. 15 members of our faculty sat in this room for 8 hours on Thursday, and we went through the beginning of the training and the foundational components of the training. We now will move to the level of being certified as trainers So we, I believe, have 12 individuals that will be certified as trainers of supporting classroom teachers to implement instructional strategies and lesson design around the needs of the economically disadvantaged population. Thank you for that opportunity to share this with you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Moriarty, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Elementary.
Thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell. My 3 updates tonight. My first one is around iReady Classroom. This is our Tier 1 core math resource that we're piloting across the district this year. We have a need to pilot a new resource for core instruction for math because Go Math is not aligned to the next gen learning standards, which New York State has implemented this year. So in alignment with Policy 5411, the district is piloting iReady Classroom in grades K through 8. This is different from the iReady diagnostic tool and assessment that you hear us talk about often. So it has workbooks, it has teachers' editions, which you're free to look at if you would like here. The end of the unit assessments can be computer-based or paper-based. We're encouraging paper-based because we will be moving to New York State assessments on the computer this year. And for kindergarten and first grade, they are project-based, they're activity-based. There are parent letters to be shared throughout each unit with explanations about the student learning targets, and parents have digital access to the workbooks and tutorial videos that can help them support their learners at home and explain the homework. There are self-checks for students at the beginning of a unit so they can check and see what do they know about the unit prior and then go back and check what did they learn throughout the unit. A letter informing parents about the pilot is being sent home from the Division of Curriculum and Instruction, and teachers, students, and staff will have multiple opportunities throughout the year to provide feedback on the resource. So again, it is a pilot for this year. Our core in grades K through 5. This year we started out with our LLS, that's our Leadership Learning Series. That's for building administrators and directors. That will happen monthly, professional development for the administrators. Individual school coaching has also begun. That will happen 7 times throughout the course of the year and will be differentiated for new teachers, new to teaching the resource, and side-by-side coaching in the classroom for teachers in year 2 and beyond. Teachers have begun assessing students and readers and writers engagement levels. This happens prior to leveling our students and finding their independent reading level. Once we begin finding their independent reading level, we'll also be figuring out the students' power goals on which they'll work toward until the next conferencing with their teachers. Additionally, this year for the core resources, we've added Heggerty to build phonemic awareness, and that's been in K2, and we'll continue that out into grade 3. Patterns of Power is a tool that we're providing to 4th and 5th grade teachers to extend grammar instruction. And my last item for this evening is AIS and K5, which Mr. Forget just touched a little bit upon. But our AIS providers, our academic intervention service teachers, are continuing to focus on intervention students who are performing 2 or more years below grade level. Students in these classes, it is fluid, as Mr. Forget just indicated. The student doesn't stay there for the year, so at K through 5, we're on an 8-week cycle. 4 times a year. The providers assess the students beginning at the beginning and at the end of each rotation and provide parents with an update. Mr. Forget already spoke about the criteria, and those teachers are also receiving professional development this year on the resources that they're using. That concludes my items.
Thank you. Dr. Freeman Mack, Assistant Superintendent, Chief Equity Officer.
Thank you. So as we talk about middle school, as it relates to middle school, we also are implementing ARC core support for grade 6 in our buildings. The ARC core support incorporates coaching from our ARC representatives with teachers, administrators. The ARC core coaches are visiting classrooms. They're examining instruction, looking at the pacing of the program, examining how students are being leveled, examining how they're reading, what the instruction is looking like, as well as the various types of essay modes that they will be producing as they're writing throughout the year. ARC Core, this is the first year implementation in grade 6. The teachers have met in June. They've also met in September, and they will continue to meet throughout the year with the ARC Core coaches. Also, as it relates to iReady, and Ms. Moriarty spoke about this, we are doing the iReady pilot for classroom support in mathematics, also grades 6 through 8. The program really focuses on supporting all students in becoming critical thinkers, lifelong learners, persistent problem solvers. There's key concepts over multiple days to foster deeper levels of understanding and allows students to facilitate more of the lesson and show what they're learning along the way, and kind of lets the teachers sit in the back while students are explaining how they learned it and how they know. Lastly, Parent Connect. We will begin our first session of Parent Connect in October. The focus will be Regents preparation and also informing parents and families and students, who do you go to in a building if you need support? Social workers, psychologists, teachers, our directors will be on hand to give support as to what to expect for the Regents as we start to provide Regents prep support in November. And then also, who do you go to is just that lifelong process in the district of who you should go to when you need supports. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Farrell, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction for Secondary Education.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell Manning. Manning Campbell, excuse me. 3 of the departments that I work most closely with touch almost all of the students in our district. First is Fine and Performing Arts. We are working very hard to rebuild our infrastructure and support for our students in the Fine and Performing Arts. It's very necessary that our students develop their talents, enhance their strengths and their existing abilities, and learn that there is an inner artist in all of us, except me perhaps, but nonetheless there is an inner artist in most of our students. I'm working very closely with our new director, Kristen Johnson. She is also helping develop lists of community organization and community activities in which our students can participate. For example, on the 21st, our band performed at the Armory at the Patriot Mission and was very well received. So it's nice to have our students showcased. They will also be performing at this Thursday's football game, at least during the first half. So I hope to see our students there frequently, and especially at homecoming on October 6th. In terms of athletics, speaking of football, again, we're playing Valley Central on the 28th. Coach Hodge is working to expand opportunities for more of our students to participate in athletics, in which they can experience success and develop self-confidence. For example, a very logical step is to increase our track participation. Everyone has feet, everyone can run, everyone can be accomplished. We're also working with our Empire After School program to, in conjunction with Coach Hodge's support, to develop an intramural activity showcasing 3 different sports during the course of the year, with culminating competitive activities for our middle school students. Lastly, CTE, under the directorship of John Etrie, we're continuing to refine our construction documents, looking at program and making sure that all of our programs are aligned so that our students have certifications when they finish the program and can articulate into either further trade activities or college credit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Farrell. Ms. Peterson, Chief Information Officer, Assistant Superintendent.
So within the registration department, we still continue to register our new students and support parents with Parent Portal. We are also beginning our building work in preparation for our annual enrollment update, considered beds for the state. That's when we report every student and staff member to the state for our initial data verification. We are also supporting the buildings with attendance and where our students are, and working with our attendance teachers to ensure that students that have not arrived to school are checked up on, and we find their locations. On the data team, we are working for the submission of our state aid management system, which is local runs on what our student counts are for the year. So we're in the process of submitting that to the state. We also have the initial reports that we start for the state yearly on enrollment, class entry exit, attendance, staff attendance and reporting and certification. The data team is also preparing for the civil rights, which is the Department of Education, a federal report that's done by, not annually, semi-annually, every 2 years. So we're also participating in just making sure that we're gathering that data and that information across the district. Within the technology team, we are adjusting to our new department structures. We have ITFs in buildings supporting teachers, techs working around the clock, and just a special thank you to the department and techs who have been working overtime and weekends to ensure that we have Chromebooks, Chrome cards, and other rostering and network configurations done. The team is really working very hard as we adjust to this new structure, and I thank them for that. We are also in the beginning stages of prepping for the PSAT, which is going to be digital this year. So we are working along with Mr. McAllister. He was here earlier in the evening, just ensuring that our network is going to be prepared and ready. This is not the first time we've done online testing in the district throughout the day. We often do that with iReady. We just piloted computer-based testing next year, and it's expanding with the PSATs.
Thank you. Ms. Roaring, Assistant Superintendent for Finance.
Thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell. One of the priorities this year for my division is around security as we focus on the safety of our students and our staff. We are completing a district-wide camera project that's been funded with Smart Schools Bond Act funds. This includes cameras that will provide additional coverage in our buildings as well as upgrades of existing cameras. The remaining schools that will be completed this year include NFA North, which is expected to be done in the next couple of weeks, as well as Heritage, Bombville, New Windsor, Gardnertown, and Vales Gate. We are also installing security film across the district. The other area of focus is our capital project. We are working with CS Arch and Labella to advance the capital project. We're starting construction at New Windsor, working on design associated with Proposition 5, which was focused on HVAC across the district, as well as shared by Dr. Farrell, refining our CT construction documents. This evening, the board will receive an update on where we are with the specific projects that are underway with SED for review and in design. We will be providing regular updates to the board and our community as we go through this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Velez, Executive Director for Operations and Maintenance. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Manning. As a continuation of what Ms. Roaring said, in the operations and maintenance, we continue to improve our facilities every year. We selected few projects that we can do within the school year. During this year, 23-24, we installed a new floor in the gym at Vales Gate School. We also replaced the stage curtains at Vales Gate School after the construction. At South Middle School, we started the modernization of both elevators. One is 100%, the other one is 90%. We are waiting for the fire alarm company to install the life safety equipment to run that elevator. We have to make sure it's connected to the fire department. After we finish South, which we expect to finish by the end of this week or early next week, Heritage Middle School will be the next elevator, and then Forstertown School. That's in this year's budget. Also, we installed a generator as a backup generator at Chestnut and one at Heritage. The reason why we select these two schools, two buildings, is because we have our network equipment in both schools. At Chestnut, we have the phone system for the district, so if Chestnut lose power, we lose phone district-wide. And most of the network equipment for the schools is located at Heritage. So we want to make sure that in case of an emergency, we have those schools backed up.
Thank you. Mr. McLemore, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. So some of the projects that we're working on is Power School. Power School is a cloud-based platform in which it supports recruiting and hiring And those of you that know anything about human resources, we're filled with paper. So we're trying to reduce paper and go to a cloud-based platform that will support records, forms, documents, anything that we have in paper form so that it can be easily accessed. And so, in addition, what that will do is that will support the efficiency of the operation. The second thing is the Rethinking CSEA. Sarah Van, Onyx Peterson, and myself, we embarked upon this collaborative with the executive team, or the executive board, if you will, of CSEA. And actually, we're the trailblazers for this particular project, and it surrounds mentoring. The mentoring piece, we have collaborated with CSEA Executive Board, and what it's going to do is it's going to support and facilitate the development of employees, which is critical to the organization. And so, as a result, we're going to expand that on this particular year, 23-24 school year, to include more employees in the mentoring process as an expanded pilot. So we're really excited about this, and CSEA is as well, and we're looking forward to a continued relationship and embarking on an expanded pilot for this year.
Thank you. Last but not least, Ms. Sarah Van, Executive Director for Human Resources.
Thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell. Human Resources would also like to update our board trustees on the district's personnel recruitment and retention efforts. The district has begun enhancing its recruitment efforts in 2 ways. First, we're building on the successes of last year's district-coordinated recruitment events for professional and civil service personnel in order to plan 3 major recruitment events to be hosted by our district this year. We're also currently researching the best opportunities by which to expand our catchment area through participation in external recruitment fairs taking place south of Orange County. With regard to retention, beginning October, Human Resources leadership will meet with new personnel from across the organization in order to gauge the effectiveness of this year's onboarding processes. During those meetings, we will also seek to surface any concerns that new personnel may have.
Thank you so much. We know that it was a lot, but we thought it was important to share some of what we've been working on. Sorry about that. We do have a presentation. Yes, let me just finish indicating what I'm saying. So we will do this once a month so that, it's not too taxing on everyone who's here, but we just wanted to share some of the work that we're doing behind the scenes. Yes.
Ms. Boulay.
I have one quick question. Excuse me. I'm not sure who it's for, actually, so I'll just ask it. So back in the spring, at some point, I don't remember the exact timing, consultants were hired from BOCES, I believe, to look at the ARC program, and they did a presentation that I saw and watched a couple more times. And one of the things that they advised was that in self-contained classrooms, the ARC program itself was not the best choice. So I'm wondering, what are the self-contained classrooms using for this school year?
I don't want you to speak off the cuff. I want you to have the information. So we'll provide that to Ms. We'll provide it. We'll wait for Mr. Bayer, and then perhaps we can attempt to put it in the weekly. Please, if someone could remind me, if someone can send us an email, Ms. Boulay, if you can just email us to make sure that we have the language correctly, everything that you need. Thank you. Item 5.2. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for presenting and sharing with the community. Item 5.2, Ms. Roaring will be presenting this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell. I'd like to invite Lauren Tarcio to the podium. She's going to start us off with a presentation updating us on the status of the schools in construction right now.
Presentation. That. Okay, while they're getting that pulled up, this is the first time we've had an opportunity to present to you guys after the summer. So we've had a very busy summer and some good news. Oops. We had two very active construction sites this summer at Heritage and Valesgate. So we'll start there and we'll end with New Windsor, which is starting as we speak. So starting with Heritage, we had 3 contracts with that project. Those contracts amounted to approximately $8.1 million. And the clicker's not working. Oh, now it went too far. Okay. Oh, you did it. Can you go back? Okay, one more forward. Okay, well-oiled machine here. All right, so we are happy to report that we are substantially complete with this project, which means there are some punch list items, which are essentially just some touch-up things. So maybe a ceiling tile isn't quite aligned in the ceiling, or touch-up paint or things of that nature, but the students are using the space. We think it is a really nice space. This was the cafeteria extension. If you go to the next slide. We also did a lot of HVAC upgrades. So this is a photograph of the gym. You can hardly see it. You barely even notice that we have new HVAC in the gym. So in the foreground, you can see the ductwork for that. This is a shot of our new cafeteria. So this is us standing in the cafeteria, the new addition, and looking into the old. And there's this great seamless transition between the two spaces. So that came out really nice. We're using district branded colors in there. So it's a really open and inviting space. And this is an example of a classroom. So we did, again, HVAC upgrades in these classrooms. In the back, there's a new unit ventilator. And that provides now heating, and it will provide cooling as of next year. So we do have one element that I'm sure you're aware of. The switchgear did not arrive on time. So we are still using window air conditioning units for this season. And when the switchgear does arrive, we'll swap that out. You'll have the electrical capacity to run the air conditioning in the new units. So financially speaking, we did really well on this project as well. So we awarded the project at about $8.1 million and had $13,000 in change orders so far. That is less than 0.25% of the contract value, which is actually really impressive. And we always hold 5% as a construction contingency on all of these projects. That's your industry standard. And if you're well within that, you're doing really well. So if you go to the next slide. For the allowance, we always hold a portion of money just for some unforeseen conditions, and that's within the contractor's contract value. So this is no impact to their contract value when we use the allowance. So we had $140,000 in allowances that we held in these contracts. So far, we've used about $91,000 and have about $24,000 left. We are considering a few outstanding changes as we're cleaning up and finishing up these projects. So during construction, we found that the existing soffit that was between the cafeteria and the kitchen was actually unsupported. So it was this big, unsafe soffit. So we ended up taking it down and rebuilding it. We are waiting for the GC to provide a price for that. So that's TBD. The mechanical contractor has a few outstanding. We had to modify some duct sizes to fit some existing conditions. We're considering a change for pipe enclosures to conceal the refrigerant piping, and there was a need for additional glycol to fill the system. So that would be a potential impact of just under 60,000. And lastly, with the electrical contract, they had some conduits and wiring that was supported by that unsafe soffit. So we do have their price of about $4,000 to resupport that once we've rebuilt that soffit. So that will come in front of you at some point once we get the GC's pricing. So that was Heritage. I can take questions on Heritage now before we move in to Vales Gate.
Board members, any questions? No, we're good.
Okay, great. So Vales Gate was the addition, the music room and office classroom addition, HVAC improvements. So we have 5 contracts here. These totaled approximately $8.5 million. Next slide. So again, one back. We are substantially complete with this project as well. So the students have moved in, they're using the spaces. We're really happy about that. There is some punch list items. We were able to complete the punch list walkthrough. CPL was the first week of September, just before students arrived. So that punch list is with the district right now. They're going to review it. And then the items that they see need to be added. And then we will formally issue it to the contractors. But in the meantime, they've been working nights and weekends and taking care of some of the outstanding items that they are aware of. So basically every night this week, or all month really, they've been working in both buildings. Next slide. So this is a representative picture of one of your classrooms, and we did HVAC upgrades in this building as well. So in the back, there's a new unit ventilator against the windows, but what you can see in the foreground is that duct in the ceiling. So that is your relief air coming out of the space. We also installed a new main entrance canopy. So the old main entrance was hard to determine what was the main entrance, so we're hoping this now will direct people to the right place. So it came out really nice and blends really well with the existing building concept. And then, of course, the addition. So we played off of the existing roof slopes and the color palette, and we really think this came out nice. So with this project, again, we're doing pretty well financially on this. So like I said, we awarded contracts at about $8.5 million. Right now, we have $275,000 in change orders. Much of that was unforeseen conditions, and there was a layout change in the middle of construction. So that contributed to the higher amount you'll see in this building. But even with that said, we do have just about 3.5% in change order. So again, we're trending well under that 5% change industry standard number. For the allowance usage, we had $115,000 allocated for allowance, used about $90,000, and have about $25,000 yet left. So we're also considering some proposals, and actually this is a bit of an older presentation because we had to get it to you a little bit earlier, but many of these have already been approved and kind of written in there. So there was some furniture moving for the GC that he had to do that was unforeseen at time of bid, some additional curbs that needed to be flashed into the roof, removing sound block, which we actually rejected, and same thing with Labor Day work, we rejected that one. So that's not even considered anymore. The electrician, we ran into a few snafus once teachers came back. We were finding certain outlets weren't working, so the electrician had a lot of work on time and material, sort of chasing after some of those things. So a lot of what you see here, there are a number of these changes for the electrician. All of these have actually already been approved at this point, but that's what those are mostly. And then for the site work contractor, we had a canopy remobilization charge due to a delay of another contractor that's going to wash out with the general contract. And then some additional utility trenching that was unforeseen as well. Any questions on Vales Gate before I move into New Windsor?
Doesn't seem any questions.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, so as we close those projects out, we're going to embark on a new one at New Windsor. We have awarded contracts. These contracts are four separate contractors. They amount to about $20 million. We just had our kickoff meeting 2 weeks ago. If you go to the next slide. We were anticipating a mobilization much earlier, even actually before students came back to school. As you're well aware, we've changed construction managers, so they're getting up to speed on the project. Relooking again at the logistics plan. I know the district is considering now a temporary bus loop, and then reworking the temporary site fence. So right now, tentatively, we're looking at a fence being installed on October 4th, which is only next week already. So you'll start to see the first things that you're going to start to see on that site is a lot of earth moving, getting ready for that addition, leveling things out, and getting ready for the foundations. Next slide. And just a quick rendering of what it's going to look like. Next slide. Just real quick, as we're going through construction, just a reminder that the safety of the students and staff are of the utmost importance. We always keep contractors separate of the students with hard barriers. And contractors do have to wear identification at all times, and any communication between the contractors and the district goes through the construction manager. So you don't have to worry about these contractors being on site during the school year, because New Windsor is going to be working from now all the way through next December. So we just want to remind you of that. Next slide. I believe that is it. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Thank you very much. Oh, Mr. Lamar.
Moving forward, I mean, I saw the beautiful ductwork and stuff in Heritage and also at Vales Gate.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward, as we renovate different buildings and do these capital projects to get the buildings up to speed, is that a direction we're going with more ducted HVAC? Are we going to move away from the old, whatever you call those units in the windows and the walls that have been there for however long? The univents. Are we moving away from that as we move forward with updating the buildings, or is that, I don't know, I'm just asking.
So for New Windsor, we are doing the unit ventilator replacements, just as you saw in Heritage and New Windsor. I can't speak to the other buildings.
I can add a little bit to that. We are working with Labella on our Prop 5, and we will have updates coming to the board late October.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Ms.
everyone.
Garcia. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Roaring.
The second portion of
There's
our
one more. Thank you.
The second portion of our capital project update this evening will be presented by Tom Ritzenthaler, who's a principal with CS Arch.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to give you an update to the capital projects that CS Arch is currently engaged in with the district. So if we go to the first slide, we're going to quickly go through the various projects we're going to talk about. The Heritage Middle School site circulation project, the NFA locker room renovations, the emergency elevated concrete walk replacement, which is under construction currently, and then I'm going to give you an update on where we are with the revisions to the new CTE building. So I always like to put this up here. I don't want to belabor the presentation, but everything we're focused on is to improve education for children. This is what we're in it for. So we really like to keep the focus on the kids and making sure that they're getting the experience they deserve as they go through school. So if we go to the next slide. So we'll start with Heritage. I have presented this before, but just to remind the board, several facets of this. We're going to be obviously doing the new asphalt entry at Union Avenue. We're going to be creating two queue lanes for the parent drop-offs. and pickups so that they don't queue out onto Union Avenue and create a lot of traffic congestion. And this has been reviewed both with district, the administration, the police department, the fire department, and everyone felt that this was the best possible solution to control this condition. We're going to be upgrading that. We're going to mill and repave that road, entry road, all the way up to the loop. You can see we have a lot of additional bus queuing. It actually extends down almost to the point where those queue lanes are. We're going to actually be upgrading the sidewalk so that it's a 10-foot proper drop-off, a loading sidewalk required by SED, and we're going to have to extend that down so it encompasses all of the area where the bus queues, so the students can safely access the buses. We're going to be fully repaving the loop, and then you can see we have a new crossover to what we're going to say is the more administrative side of the building. And one of the things you'll notice is we are going to have the new access drive onto Union Avenue, so we will have two now points of entry and exit from the school site. That's going to be very important for emergencies with emergency service vehicles. And you can also see that we're going to be extending the parking on this site so that it really can contain it all to the school side of the site and not necessarily have to use that back lot beside the gym. So that's everything that we're doing as part of this this program. We're adding 28 parking stalls in all. As you saw, we're looking at. We went to the education department in April. We're in the review by SED. They did request that we add a little capital project to this site work project. They wouldn't consider the addition to the Heritage Building as allowing aid for the site work. So we did have to send them an addendum for a little bit of the work that was identified as part of the BCS effort so that we could assure we're going to get all of the aid for this site work, because remember, it's incidental, so it's aided and it needs to be associated with a building project. We're still anticipating going out to bid before the end of the year, likely late October, awarding contracts either late November or into December, because we want to begin construction in spring of next year of 24. Remember, we're going to start early on that new entrance exit roadway because that won't impact the education. And then once school is out, we can take over the remaining portion of the loop and complete that project. We're looking to be substantially complete mid-August, remembering the budget was a little over $3.7 million. So this project's right on track, if not actually ahead of schedule, which is great. So for the NFA locker room renovations, just to orient everybody, it's the blue block. On the top of the page would be where your field is, where the field is. So this is right in the middle. It's the boys' locker room. And it's actually directly adjacent where the current elevated concrete walkway is being replaced. So if we go to the next slide, you can see the existing locker rooms. Just to remind you, it's pretty big and open and not in very good shape. Go to the next slide. So here's the new layout. So on the left-hand side, you have a girls' team room, and on the far right-hand side, you have the boys' team room. Right in the middle, you'll have the entry where it says graphic wall. You'll have an entry into the predominant PE boys locker room. And then you can see the toileting and showers just to the top of that. We do have a laundry with a washer dryer and some hanging storage for all of the uniforms. We're creating a new mechanical area because we're running all new mechanicals for the locker room. The current mechanicals are defunct, and we're actually underneath the stairwell that we removed as part of the concrete replacement project. We do have adjacent the toileting and showers for the primary boys' bathroom. We do have a gender-neutral locker room, and then you can see the two orange blocks in the middle are an office for the female PE teachers and an office for the male PE teachers that both look into their respective locker rooms. So it's a very tight layout, lays out very well. We're exceeding all the capacities for the number of lockers, and these are based on the larger locker sizes of 18 inches by 18 inches, so that will serve from football to really any sport necessary. So if we go to the next, we just had a three-dimensional view just to show you what this kind of looks like. It's certainly going to be in the school colors. As we look at the color palette, this has been reviewed by all the coaching staff. They're all really excited about the project. We had a lot of good commentary at the meeting this past week. And so we're actually looking at submitting this up ahead of our deadline to SED. We're going to submit this up to SED a little bit earlier than anticipated. That's good because it's really going to set us up for construction for next summer. If we go to the following slide, we have a quick little depictions of what the interior will look like with the new lockers. It's really a gut renovation, so everything is going to be brand new when you go back into it. So if we go to the next slide, so here's the schedule. We're targeting November 6th for the education department. We're going to be in sooner than that. We're going to beat that probably by a week or two. We anticipate SED approval by March 1st. I'm hoping we're going to have it sooner as we anticipate going into the department sooner. We'll bid it in March, April of next year, and then award contracts in May for a start of construction July 1. And, everyone has been aware, we don't expect this as just a single summer project. It will extend into the year. It is an isolated portion of the building, so we can sequester off this section of the building for contractor use. So we're anticipating late October before we have substantial completion. So this schedule is right on track, if not a little bit ahead of schedule. About $2.5 million that was approved in the budget from last year as a total project budget. So now let's talk about the emergency concrete replacement. Again, this is under construction. This is directly outside of where the boys' locker room renovation project is. So you can see where the boys' locker room is. You can see that red area. It depicts the elevated concrete slab that was in failure, and then the stairs that lead down to the grade. This is right outside where the field is. In fact, the covered area is the former wrestling room, now weight room. So just a place where you are in the building. If we go to the next photo. So this is what needed to be replaced. On the left-hand side is the elevated concrete slab. On the right-hand side is that same slab that was enclosed. It used to be exterior. It was enclosed during the construction of that wing of the building. And you can see that stair that comes down inside that vestibule is the emergency, the second egress out of that wrestling room. We've since taken all that out. That all had to be replaced along with this project. And is actually going to be widened to meet current code. Right now that stair does not meet the code. So we're going to correct that. Next slide. So this is where we are to date. We've done initial pours of the concrete work. We've done all of the demolition required, less just a little bit. The contractor is, we made the decision that we didn't want to have any impact to the school year. So we made the decision to limit the contractors to working on either second shift or weekends. So it has slowed up the construction project considerably. But we felt that was beneficial to maintain use of the gym for the capacity of PE during the school year. We have created a temporary emergency exit way out through the construction zone, which has been reviewed by administrators, Carl Thurneau, who is one of your consultants, and myself to make sure it was safe. It's egress out only in emergency condition. It's not a primary entry exit point. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see that. So we've put that in place. So although it has slowed down the construction a little bit, I think it was beneficial to allow you to have use of the gym, which was extremely important to the school year. And we want to make sure that we're maintaining the quality with this construction. This is a very tricky little project, unfortunately. But when it's done, it's really going to serve the district well into the future. So that is pretty much where we're at with the emergency project. If we go to the next slide. So here you can see we're looking at fall. My best guess was I would tell the board it's probably going to be Thanksgiving, and we'll be substantially complete with this project. So if I had to guess, we still do have a couple long lead time items, mainly the storefront and door systems, which really are going to hold us back a little bit. But other than that, everything's going as planned. And again, this was awarded for $1.15 million. So now let's get to what everybody is wanting to see. So where are we with the CTE building? So We have been working on the CTE building for 4 or 5 weeks now. We've reviewed it in-house with our entire team of professionals to really look at what status it was at. It was submitted to the State Education Department on June 16th. We did call the Education Department after reviewing the set and asked them not to review it because we didn't feel this was a reviewable package, and we want to be very respectful of SED's time for doing comprehensive reviews and they were very appreciative. What they've agreed to do is they're holding that slot for us, and we're going to swap out our set for that one. And then they've actually said that they would consider giving us a direct face-to-face review at the time of our submission, which is very good because we don't want to go back in the queue and have to wait another 4 months. We're going to consider the time from June 16th to now as time served, and we want to get right down to our review. So I do want to go through a couple of the changes that we've been making, and we've really been focusing our changes on kind of four things. The first is compliance with SED minimum standards. There were several things on the existing plans that did not meet SED minimums, and the district was going to lose building aid. So we wanted to assure that that did not happen. You know, building aid comes too hard to get, and we need every dime for the project. So we looked at that, and we have made all of those corrections. So everything in the new layout meets the SED minimum standards. We also wanted to make sure we complied with other standards and codes. So there were several code-related issues that we had to address. That was fine. And then there were other standards like maximum length of runs for data. There were some issues with some of those things that we have corrected. We also wanted to reflect what we felt were a couple key program modifications to the design as presented. The most significant one, probably, if you notice, is the gymnasium. So that it's going to serve the district well into the future, and it's going to meet all of your requirements for every program that's in this building. So the gym is probably the biggest change because the existing gym was really only allowed access from the interior of the building through one pair of 3-foot doors. So for assembly use, for any time you were going to use this facility, you were going to have to move all of those individuals through one pair of doors, which we just did not think was tenable for the building. So we have actually moved the gym down and engaged it with the other wing of the building. This allowed us to double up the corridor. It allows us now to have multiple sets of doors to access into the gym. It allows us now to section off that end of the building if you wanted to have an after-hour event where you wouldn't have to have the whole building open to the public. You'll also notice that we changed the location of the locker rooms because in the previous scheme, the locker rooms were across the gymnasium. So the students would enter the gym and have to go across the gym floor to get to the locker rooms. And the office for the PE instructors was on the opposite side of the gym. Very unusual arrangement. So what we've done is we've put the locker rooms corridor side. The students will go into the locker rooms. There'll be offices there that supervise each of those, a men's and a women's PE office. And then the students will go from the locker rooms into the gymnasium, and then the bleachers will be on the opposite side of the gymnasium. We've increased the bleacher capacity slightly. We're at about 550 capacity currently. I think previous it was at about 500, and we've enlarged the area of the gym slightly because the main court worked, but the practice courts did not work dimensionally, and it was causing what we felt was a safety concern with no runoff space beyond the baseline of the court. So we wanted to correct that for student safety. So this also created another entry point at the north side of the building for the faculty because the faculty lot is off to the north side of the building. So that is some of the major plan changes. We've also made a whole series of other little changes. John's been fantastic at working with us, and I think he's really engaged and excited about the direction where we're going. If we go to the next slide, I just want to show you a couple of the outcomes. So we talked about the revised gym for better access, safety, supervision. The other thing it did is it reduced site work costs. The previous gym was pushed out in the plan, and there was a 17-foot retaining wall with structural fill needed to create that gym in that location, which was significant cost in site development. So pushing the gym back has allowed us to avoid all of those costs to the construction budget, which is considerable. We've increased the net program area. So we've increased the program area, yet we've reduced the area of the overall building by over 3,000 square feet. So we've reduced kind of the overall net to gross, but we have not affected the program area. We've actually increased it. The gym was part of that as well. We wanted to get this building down from the 136,000 that was the design presented down to 133,000 square feet or lower, because that's the square footage referenced in the seeker documents that the board approved. So we didn't want to have any issue with SED saying that we were exceeding a limit of our seeker determination. So we're there now. We've got it there. John and everyone has seen no real impact to any of the functionality of the program. In fact, I think we've overall improved it. We've also reduced the overall volume of the building. The building had a lot of significant volumes for auto shops and the construction bays. We've pushed the volumes of the building down. Nobody is ever going to know. John, we finally kind of explained it and walked him through it. And the importance is that when you have large volumes, you have to, A, construct it, but you have to continue to heat and cool it for the life of the building. So we've not only improved the construction cost by lowering those volumes down, we've also improved the operational spend on the building as long as the building's in existence. So that was really important. Jacobs is already reviewing their previous estimate for the building to see what the impacts of these kind of VE changes have been. And then we also made a revision to the structural systems of the building. The previous plans had a hybrid bearing wall steel frame system, which was going to severely impact our construction and delay the construction. It would be longer to construct the building when you have to build masonry walls, let them set, and then build structural steel decks on top of them, and then go to the next level, and then go to the next level. We are doing an independent structural frame and then building the masonry walls where we want them to be for durability, especially at the shops, as you might imagine, the auto shops, the construction trade shops, the core, the toilet room cores, and so forth. So we're doing that because we know we have a target. It's not a target, it's the absolute. We got to be in this building for 2026 start of school year. So we needed to make everything we could to improve the construction sequence to make sure that that was playing along with it. So that was a big, significant change. So right now the schedule, we're going to submit to the State Education Department. We were trying to target the end of December. We're not going to get there. We're going to submit in January. But this shouldn't have any impact on our overall schedule. We'll get our review by the Education Department, and we're anticipating our approval toward the end of February, early March, the latest. We're going to go out to bid March and April with the anticipated start of construction in May of '24. So nothing hinders this construction. It's a clear site. The site's already been previously cleared, so the contractors can have full access to the site. And so we're looking at construction from May of 2024 to July of '26. And that would then reserve 2 full months for the district to move in, test systems, get themselves acclimated to the building before the start of the school year in September of 2026. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Wow. Thank you so much. Our students are going to be so excited, as well as our community. Thank you very, very much. We're looking forward to this.
This should be the flagship of the district, this building. Everybody has been wanting this for a long time. So we've got, look, I get to stand up here and get the accolades. I'm not doing lion's share of the work. We got a huge team behind, and we got a lot of folks at the district that are really driving this with us to make sure that we deliver this. So we're excited about the opportunity.
Board members, any questions? I have one question that I've asked before, but these 3 projects, the Heritage Bus Loop, the the two projects at the high school.
Right, the locker room and
Yeah,
the. and
that's $7 million that, from the capital bond project that was approved many years ago. It's not part of the capital bond, it's separate money?
The NFA main locker room project was a separate proposition and went to the voters in May for use of capital reserve fund, so it's not part of the May 2019 proposition.
So the other two are from the capital bond.
Yes, they are.
That money is taken from some other project that was proposed. Do we know where that is coming from? All the plans that were shown back in 2018, 2017, we're going to do work at all these schools. After a while, the money is used up on other projects, and with inflation and the long time period, what do you anticipate not being done as part of the original capital bond project?
The board is going to receive an update on October 24th that will provide additional information on that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Mr. Levinstein.
So at times during this project, we talked about the pathway from this building to NFA Main. Is there anything been worked on with that, whether it's stairs, whether or what that might be?
The current, okay. No, go ahead.
So the way we're planning for this building currently is to have students seated. We're not necessarily going to move back and forth. That is why it was important to render the building to SED standards, so we'll have students seated and not necessarily moving back and forth between buildings. So it'll be programmatic in terms of programs, what students want to study, and things of that sort. So we're going to have them there doing all core and then vocational studies as well.
So that applies to the teaching staff too? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Our next item is 5.3, resolution to adopt policy on the first reading, policy number 2250, board committees.
Can I have a motion and a second on this item? There's no motion and second?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from the board on this? Mr. Lamar.
I'm just curious, what is the situation in creating the need to change this policy at this time?
We're just hoping to get moving with board committees.
May I say, does that are you okay with that, Mr. Lamar?
There's changes.
One change.
Your mic.
Put on your mic. This is essentially for us to get some of the committees moving in the district, because we have some work that we have to do, waiting to be processed as far back as June and July of last school year. So this is just an opportunity to collaborate and move forward in terms of the committee work that needs to be done.
But the board president is always set committees, and it's my understanding that in, I believe, all the districts across the state, that's the way it's done. I'm just curious why the addition of "or the superintendent" is important at this point in time.
Go ahead.
At this point, we really just want to get the board committees established and get the collaboration going, get the relationships built. I think we heard from a speaker this evening about the power of that and the need for it. Obviously, if you are the agent that creates policies and are responsible for policies as a Board of Education, it's up to you. We really just wanted to move forward with getting committees and collaboration and trust built between the executive team and the Board of Education members. That's our intent.
Ms. Politi, then Ms. Boulay.
Are we able to move to a committee of the whole without approving this policy?
So I heard Ms. Politi ask, would we be, if we don't approve this policy, will you move with committee as a whole? You as a board have the opportunity to do and move in the direction that you wish to move in. If you look at the last resolution where the committees are created and there's membership, it gives you the structure for committees. So committee as a whole would be for curriculum and instruction, diversity, equity, inclusion, facilities, and one other one. And then policy, library, personnel, and audit would be functioning as traditional committees in the structure that we are provided. But that would be totally up to you. It says superintendent or president. If you want to maintain it with the president, that's fine, but we really, really are begging you to support the design and development of committees in the structure that Dr. Manning Campbell has presented.
I support that structure, but is there a way to change the language or amend the language here instead of saying or the superintendent with the collaboration of the full board?
I believe if the rest of the policy supports the need for collaboration and decision-making of individual board members, we're not requesting to change that.
My concern is just that, so board president or the superintendent could be vague, and I understand the need for these committees, but we haven't had equity on those committees. So I don't really feel comfortable with this unless it's collaboration with the whole board.
So we are willing to work. We are ready. We are okay if it stays with the board president because we understand that the board does policies, but please understand that this is impacting our work. We're okay with it. We just need to move forward.
Ms. Boulay, then Mr. Howard.
Can I just get clarification on Ms. Politi's statement?
From Mr. Shaw?
Ms. Politi's statement. So I think what I heard Ms. Politi say was that it would read, committee members will be appointed by the board president in collaboration with all board members. Is that what I hear you asking for? Thank you.
Well, collaboration isn't a very clear term. It should be with the approval of the board, meaning a quorum of the board would approve the recommendation. And that recommendation could come from either the board president, the way this is written, or could be rewritten, or the superintendent, so that you could actually get the committees appointed.
So we could approve this, and it would still take a quorum of the board to approve the committees once established.
Amended.
Well, this is written in the disjunctive, isn't it? So the wording isn't great the way that it is.
Was this run by legal before this came to the agenda?
I think that it was sent to Margot to review.
Thank you. Ms. Boulay, then Mr. Howard.
It's one of the board's exclusive duties and responsibilities to create and amend policy. It's not a responsibility of the school superintendent. This board on 8-8 in quorum of 5 voted to rescind all of the committee assignments that were made. And in doing such, left in limbo a number of policies in that wake. Without the committees, the board cannot function. I note that that decision did not give us an audit committee, which is a requirement by law this whole time. I am of the strong belief that the board president needs to retain that separation from the superintendent and be given the responsibility of assigning these committees. Historically, it has been the board president who has assigned committees without any input to board members, and they would receive it, I am told, in an envelope after the fact. If the problem that the quorum has, and I'm not speaking for you, but if the problem is the way that those committees were set up, the way that I believe it needs to be solved is to not give the superintendent power to make these decisions. I believe it to be a conflict of interest.
Mr. Howard?
Yes, I would like to amend the motion. I would like to strike, motion to amend.
Motion to, what's?
Oh, motion to amend.
Yes.
Well, you have to state what the
What the
motion
amendment
I want a
is.
motion to, I want to strike, or superintendent, second paragraph, committee members will be appointed by board president with the approval of the board members.
Well,
Where does it say that here?
I believe what you currently had was the board president's prerogative to decide who would be on the committee. So the question is, how will the members be placed on the committee? I think what Mr. Howard is saying is that you could propose, but the board would approve.
Correct.
The quorum. So it's still going to come back to a quorum of the board ultimately.
That is correct.
Well, that's what we've been doing this whole time. That's why we had to vote on the original committees.
Okay, but
So I don't understand what the change is. If the current policy and the current practice was that the board president would create the committees and the board would approve it, that's what we had.
But the placement of individuals on the committee, that seems to be the nub issue here.
Well, if the board doesn't approve the board president's committee assignments, then they have to be reworked.
I don't think that's how the appointments were originally made. I thought you made the appointments and those were the people on the committee. Not that the board
They were
was
approved.
approving.
They were approved by the board, and then they were rescinded at a later meeting. Basically, what happened was, as I was told, the process was the president created the committee assignments, as it's been done for decades, and the board approved them at a later meeting. That's what happened. And then they were rescinded. So right now, the only change that's proposed is to add the superintendent to be able to also appoint committee members, and it would still be a vote of the board to approve.
But that isn't what the policy says.
So why were we voting to approve committee assignments if it's not in the policy?
It's a good question.
So this whole runaround for 2 months was done without proper policy.
No, I think the policy said that you approved who would be the members of the committee. That's what that says, absent any amendment. If you read
Are you
it.
talking about the board or the president?
President.
So why did we have to take votes on committee assignments?
Might have been a gratuitous vote. You had the power, and now the issue is, should you have the power through this policy, or should it be amended to give you the authority to make the recommendations, but subject to a quorum vote of the board for approval? I think that's Mr. Howard's amendment.
so what happened on July 6th, if I'm correct, when Mr. President presented the committees, which is unusual to be done on that night, you put it up for a vote.
Because I
You
was
did
told that it had to be
By who?
by our attorney, and
No, I didn't tell you that.
that's what I was told had to be done. To be able to move forward with having committees during the summer, I was told it had to be voted upon and approved.
Okay, so when you put it up for a vote, it passed.
Yes.
Okay, subsequent meeting, people weren't satisfied or happy with the makeup of the committees because of how it wasn't equitable to the board members, and a resolution was put on the floor to rescind the resolution of the approval of the committees.
It was clarified that there was rescinding of the committees itself as well. And that's what happened. There were no committees after that. So for 2 months, we've had no committees, and there was a proposal made by the superintendent to create a committee of the whole at some point, and then these other 4 committees that were standard committees.
Okay, so Mr. President, if I can ask you a simple question. So when it was voted to rescind to get rid of the committees, at that point, it was explained that they felt that the committees weren't fairly put together. Did you think about let me finish, reconfiguring the committees and presenting it back to the board for approval?
I did. I changed one of the committees as a request from Mr. Bergarelli on the Finance Committee, and we voted and approved Mr. DeRay to be the head of the Finance Committee.
Okay, but you didn't listen. You don't understand. Obviously,
I didn't change all of them.
Okay, you only changed one person. The understanding was that the makeup of the committees were unbalanced, not one committee.
In your view, they were unbalanced.
Well,
that's true.
The majority, okay, so.
That's fine.
So my thing is, as the president, did you try to reconfigure those committees and bring it back to the board to vote on?
I was told, based on the meeting with the superintendent, that she was preparing, and she did. She presented, right after that meeting, she presented a proposal for committee of the whole with other committees.
But I'm not talking about the committees of the whole. I'm talking about the 4 committees.
The board, Ms. Politi said she wanted committee of the whole, and the superintendent created a proposal for committee of the whole. And it was going to be presented at a very recent meeting. It didn't come one meeting, so we asked again, and now it's here. This is the proposal that the superintendent put before the board that was presented back in September. This is what the board, the majority of the board wanted at the time when they rescinded.
Okay, so Mr. President, just to get this moving and so we can start doing the work of the board, would it be an opportunity for us tonight to put those committees together under your, that was the reason why I wanted to make the motion to amend amend the agenda so that we can put the item 5.6, take it off the superintendent's portion of the meeting and put it on your portion of the meeting so that we can talk about making those committees tonight, like putting them together
I think
tonight
it's going to take.
and make them even.
I think it's
make
going to
them
take some
equitable.
time to look at it and to see how the construction of the committees could be.
So why can't we do that tonight?
Because this is something out of the blue that you just bring in. I have to take a look at the committee assignments and see what can be done based on what.
We continually say, Mr. President, that we're not able to do the work of the board or the district because we don't have committees.
This proposal tonight was made by the superintendent, and that's what we have before us. I can take a look at the committee assignments and see how we can rework it.
Oh, okay,
it's not going to happen tonight. Ms. Politi.
I'm not
This
finished.
isn't, I'm sorry, Mr. Howard.
I haven't finished.
Mr. Howard, you were making a motion to amend. I don't know that it had a second.
Okay.
I second that motion.
So then, the amendment, could you please clarify what the amendment was?
I withdraw my motion to amend. I'm just going to vote it down, and we can move to 5.6 and have that discussion. I mean, I'll vote it now. So I withdraw my motion to amend.
Ms. Politi.
I'll make the motion to amend. And what I'd like to amend is, will be appointed by the board president with approval of a quorum of the board.
I second that.
there a second? There are 2 seconds. So take a vote on the amendment.
Roll call on the amended.
To amend?
This is to add the amendment to the discussion.
To amend. Okay. Ms. Belay?
Just to specify the amendment, we're striking the superintendent part, but we're adding the president will, responsibility is to make the committee assignments with approval of the board. That's what we're doing, right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Apologies.
Yeah, ready?
Ms. Belay?
No.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Lamar?
No.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Straight
No.
5 yeses.
No, a vote on the policy as amended.
Roll call on the policy as amended.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Mr. Lamar?
No.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Straight
No.
Ms. Belay?
No.
Passed.
Item 5.4.
Item 5.4 is a resolution to adopt policy on the first reading, policy number 5201, secondary school course credit.
Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Any questions on this item? Ms. Boulay.
So this one is also known as that 55 Rule 1 that we talked about 2 or 3 times before there were no committees. And on this one, I just want to state again that this was a shared decision-making policy set of changes. It was done by a team of people who invested an awful lot of time before I or the new members were on this board. And their recommendations, although it says shared decision-making, are dependent upon whether or not the superintendent and Mr. Forget accept them or not. So in this case, the superintendent is bringing this up as a policy change and not incorporating what the frontline people, what the teachers and other workers want for the students. And in my opinion, they're the ones who know best what is best because they are on the front line. So to ignore their decisions entirely, I personally feel is very disrespectful. And so I just want to point that out.
Mr. Forget.
Thank you, Ms. Belay. So I just give you a quick update on this. I did meet with Ms. Moran and representatives of the teaching staff. Some of our executive team members were also a part of that conversation, and we dug a little bit deeper into this. If you notice that there is no discussion of common assessments written in here, what we've agreed to do is to put together an opportunity throughout this school year for the teachers to have more input and to have more opportunity to design the common assessments at the grade 6 through 12 level in order for them to administer them. So that was actually removed when it was originally placed in, based on their request to have more involvement in the design of those particular assessments. The other thing that we talked about on our next iteration of this that we just met probably 3 weeks ago was that we agreed to consider that in order to get the 55 as the lowest score on the report card, they would have to have an 85% average daily attendance, and we're going to begin that on 24-25. We're trying to be respectful, but we also understand that, we have to work with our students, and we want our students to succeed.
Ms. Boulay.
So again, it's the board that is part of the policy making. If you met again with the shared decision-making team, then there was no board input in that change. So I understand, I read where the change in attendance won't happen until next year, but what that means for this year, and my concern, yet again, is for student learning, is that a student need not attend, not learn, and get a pass into summer school because they've been given that 55. I'm not so sure that that's the right thing to do for our kids.
Anybody? Roll call, please.
Mr. Duray? No. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Lamar?
No.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Schreidiron?
No.
Ms. Boulay?
No.
Mr. Borgarelli?
Yes.
Did not pass. Did not pass, no.
Did not pass.
Item 5.5 is a resolution to adopt policy on the first reading, policy number 5411, participation in student extracurricular activities and interscholastic athletics.
Can I have a motion and a second, please? Ms. Paletti?
I'd like to make a motion to amend policy 5411. The language states.
Hasn't been added yet. No. I think we have to motion and second to get it on, and then you can amend it.
Okay.
Okay. Motion and second, please?
So moved.
Okay, so the language in 5411 states that during the school year, students must earn a minimum average daily attendance of 85%, excluding any excused absence with sick, emergency medical or dental or home ill from the health office code to maintain eligibility. I would like that to also include death of a family member, which is also on the interscholastic policy. I'm sorry, the secondary course credit policy.
Can I have a second, please, on that amendment?
So moved.
Well, has to second it.
There is a second.
Okay. All right, so there's a second on that. So can we discuss it now? Is there any questions on that? Okay. So I'm getting, you're saying that right now it does not include a death of a family member as
That's correct.
part of the attendance calculation?
It doesn't include it as an excused absence, the death of a family member. And my rationale is that I have an athlete, she's in 11th grade, it counts this year. God forbid someone passes away, and that would affect her performance. This is when colleges are looking at them.
Shouldn't the excused absence in the other policy that you mentioned just mirror this one?
I think that this policy should mirror the other one, as an excused absence should be, include the death of a family member.
And it should include it for all.
Correct.
Okay.
And it does in the other one, it just doesn't in this one.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Mr. Levinstein?
So maybe if someone could explain, beside that change here, what changes are being done on this policy from what exists now to what's going to happen, I guess, in 24, 25?
We're going to vote the amendment first, and then we're going to discuss. So roll call on the amended item.
Yes.
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 Mr. Levinstein, so you have a question about what the changes are in this?
Yes, so, an outline of it.
Mr. Forge?
Thank you.
So there are two major changes. Number one, as the board during budget time removed the external compliance officer, we're requesting that an internal compliance officer be appointed to keep the integrity of this particular policy intact. So we're requesting an internal compliance officer who will randomly select students who are participating in athletic teams or in the musical or in a drama performance to ensure that they met the criteria to be eligible. So that would be the function of the internal versus an external compliance officer, and it would be a representative of the faculty and the staff in the district after we identify that. The second component would be to make sure that there's consistency in the way we calculate the average daily attendance for the current school year as well as the prior school year. So in the previous policy, during the school year, we did not include, we gave flexibility for students who were absent because of sick, and we didn't count those excused absences in the calculation of the average daily attendance. However, for the prior school year, it was based on the minutes of instruction that you sat in your seat in the classroom. Right now, we're saying it should be the same criteria, whether it's during the year or the summative 85% at the end of the year. So it's just consistency in the calculation and the way the report is run by our technology department.
Ms. Boulay.
So a couple of things. First thing, I see twice in this policy, the same set of lines. One says that in one section that attendance requirements of 85% will begin with the 23-24 school year. And if you scroll down, it then says this will begin in the 24-25 school year. So it has to be one or the other. The other thing I want to point out here is something that I had said before, because this was one of the ones that was put into limbo. So if the requirement is that each student earn 4.5 credits in a year, 4.5 times 4 is 18 credits, and you need 22 to graduate. So what we are ensuring is that a student can play sports but not graduate. And I don't think that's where we really want to be with this. And then, yes, I understand that some kids now go to school for 6 years and not 4. It used to be that if you were a particular type of student classified in a particular way, you could stay till age 21. But I did not know that it was common for kids to just go for 6 years. Someone had said, I don't know which board member had said at one point when this came up, that some kids just go to school, we get them in school because they get to play a sport. And I would add back that it's our role, and the amount of money that we spend per student is to educate them. And I would prefer that they read and write. And the last thing I want to say is on that external compliance officer change, we were part of a huge investigation by the Orange County District Attorney not that long ago, because the records were falsified and manipulated, his words, not mine. And therefore, I have a problem with just eliminating that external control and allowing a staff member to have control. Thank you.
Mr. Forget, you had your hand up before.
Did you want me to just address the inquiry by Ms. Boulay?
Oh, you had your hand up before. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
it was to address because there was a comment that the language says beginning with the 23-24 school year. That's stating that during this particular school year, as we calculate out average daily attendance of 85% throughout this year, that's what that's in reference to. And then the following statement says that beginning with 24-25, that's the way we'll calculate out the end of year for the previous year.
Mr. Howard and
Yes,
Mr. Lamar.
in answer to Ms. Boulay, when she said the board members, to clarify the quote, what I said was, we have scholar athletes, but we also have athlete scholars. And I said the understanding was, you have scholar athletes that come to school for an education, and while they're here, they play a sport, they play something extracurricular. But I also said, in this environment and times that we have today, we have athlete scholars, kids that go to school to play sports, and while we got them here, it's our duty to educate them. That's what I said. And I said we use that as a carrot because they're coming here to play the sport. But the reality is we do have athlete scholars, and we have to understand what is our role to make sure while we have them here in our care, custody, and control, that we make sure that they get an education. That is what I said.
Mr. Lamar?
Yeah, I just want to know why there was a change. We had it previously set, and it's scratched out here. The principal will ensure the pupil personnel support staff meet with the student every 5 weeks to monitor improvement. The idea was to get them up to speed as quickly as possible. That's on top of page 3. It looks like now the assessment is merely quarterly. And I think we're just taking away an opportunity to bring the children back up to the level they need to be at, as opposed to just waiting until the end of the quarter to go, oh, you made it or you didn't.
I have a question. The original line at the top, it says, a comprehensive annual audit report will be provided to the Board of Education and the superintendent. Now it says the activity will result in a written report that will be submitted to the superintendent on a quarterly basis. I want to make sure that the board gets that report as well, and I would like it to be in the policy as it was before. So I make a motion to amend to include the Board of Education as it was before in that line where it says on a quarterly basis. Okay, that's my motion to amend. I would need a second.
Second.
Roll call to amend. Oh, she's writing it. Sorry. The amendment is to add the language on that line which says will be submitted to the superintendent on a quarterly basis. It's on the screen. It used to say report will be given to the Board of Education and the superintendent. So it's going back to what we had before. It just Mr. Bergarelli?
Yeah, the line that was scratched out before, the part about the provided to the Board of Education and superintendent, that's an annual audit. But the new wording, the superintendent gets a report on a quarterly basis as opposed to annually, so we get it more often. Wouldn't it be better to have it this way and then request it from the superintendent? Instead of seeing it once a year, we'd see it quarterly instead.
It's important enough to have that data in front of us as a board.
Annually as opposed to quarterly.
Quarterly is fine. Quarterly.
No. Okay.
I think a board should be informed on a quarterly basis.
But if you go back to the original wording, it's annual.
I know. We had a couple times a year with the external auditor where he reported. The policy just said annually, but we had at least 2 or 3 times. Roll call on the amendment. Roll call to amend.
Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Belletti?
Yes.
Mrs. Straight-Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray?
Vote.
Need a motion a second to vote on it?
It's already. Yeah, we're going to vote on the main motion now. So this is voting on the amended 5.5. Yeah, roll call.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Belletti?
Yes.
Mrs. Straight-Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Mr. Lamar?
No.
Item 5.6 is a resolution to approve committee membership.
Can I have a motion and second on this item?
Second.
Any questions on this item? Mr. Lamar?
Why are the committees being set up by the superintendent? And on second question, I'll go ahead and put it out there. Under this structure, who are the chairs of these committees?
The chairs are listed here. Actually, they're not. Not on this one.
We didn't recommend chairs.
So there were no chairs to committee? So who would make the agendas? I make a motion to table this item to bring it back at the next meeting with,
Table is without a date and is not debatable.
okay.
Postpone would be to say what you
Well,
said.
I can't postpone the way it's structured here, so I'm just going to motion to table this item.
Second.
Roll call to table.
No.
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerelli?
No.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard?
No.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein? 5 yes to motion.
It's tabled.
Table.
Thank you. That concludes my items.
Thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell. Clerk of the Board, Ms. Novotny?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the approval of minutes from the September 12, 2023 regular meeting and September 18, 2023 special meeting.
Can I have a motion second on these items?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on these items? Roll call.
Mr. Straight-Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Bloody?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my item tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Novotny. Moving now to the Board President's section. President's update. I would like for the board members to submit their board goals so that we can start the discussion on moving forward with board goals. So if you could email Ms. Novotny your board goals, and we will put together a list for the next meeting. We might have actually put it together in a list and email it to you so you can see everyone's responses, so we can have a good discussion at the next meeting. Okay. The other item that I had was the, Mr. Howard?
Yes. So how many board goals would you suggest we send down?
As many as you think are important for you. Every board member should submit board goals, and we'll come together in consensus and approve however many we can. Thank you. The other item I had was the, we had discussed waiving the fees for Tamika McCullough regarding a film that was, she was proposing to show at NFA. That was at least 3 meetings ago. If it's possible, I don't know where we are with that. Can we have that on for the next agenda for waiving that fee for that movie? I believe it's called The Right to Read. The other item was back in July, we had discussed with the superintendent a homework help program. And I would like to see at some point next meeting where we are on that, whether it's being created, implemented at any of our schools at this point. If not, then maybe the committees can take that up when we have committees. That concludes the item for the President's update. Item 7.2, resolution to approve the settlement agreement and general release. Can I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Any questions on this item? Ms. Boulay?
Are we going to open up?
Can we click on that tab for opening up the agreement? Thank you. Can you make it? Thank you. He's good. I think he's... Oh, go up a little bit. I think he's trying to... Do you have any questions on this item, Ms. Boulay, or?
No.
Roll call on this item?
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Barbarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Paletti? Mr. Stridiron?
Yes. Item 7.3, resolution to adopt the policy on first reading, policy 2160, school district officer employee code of ethics. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Ms. Boulay?
Oh, no, I didn't have
Oh, I thought you motioned. Sorry.
Mr.
Mr. Levinstein?
So I have a question on this policy. In July, I believe the wording that was added and approved by this board is consultants, no employer or consultant of the Newburgh and Large City School District may run for a trustee position or be appointed to a trustee position on Newburgh and Large City School District for 1 year after discontinuing employment with the district. So this is what was a motion was made, it was seconded, it was approved by 8-1, and I don't see that wording on this policy as it's coming before us now. Is there a reason or?
Mr. Shaw? Thank you.
Yeah, it's what the statute says about qualifications for running to the Board of Education. That wasn't something that could be conditioned that way, so it wouldn't be appropriate in the policy.
Okay, so that's fine if it can't be done that way. I don't have any problem with it not being, but what is on here doesn't make sense. I mean, we added it, so if you felt that it wasn't legally binding, we didn't add it, even though we voted. Is that correct?
I don't believe it was added.
It was added.
It was added and approved at a previous meeting,
July-
I believe, July 18th.
13th or 18th?
And it was approved. And then subsequently, we found out that the language wasn't legal.
Right, it's not legal.
So the vote itself, is that considered void if we voted on something that wasn't legal? Or just that one section gets taken out?
That should be amended to be redacted.
Okay, that's fine, but
is-
that's not what is before us here
Okay.
on it. But that's certainly fine to say, and I'll make the motion to correct the record wording and to redact it because it's not a legally responsible addition. So I make that motion.
So we're going to take the language that was approved for your amendment on the 18th, add it, but strike it through.
Correct.
And then we will vote on that. So we're going to, can I have a second for Mr. Levinstein's amendment?
Second.
Roll call on the amended.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Barbarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
So now that it's amended, are there any questions on this item at all? Yes, now that it's amended, we need to vote on making the amendment.
Policy as amended.
Okay, so roll call on the policy as amended.
How it looks now, correct?
With the language strike through, so it's not going to show up on the final one.
Mr. Howard?
No.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Paletti?
No.
Mr. Stradian?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
No.
Mr. Duray? No. Didn't pass.
Item 7.4, payroll system. This is just a quick question or discussion, really. I know that there might have been a new payroll system that's been put in place since the beginning of the year or sometime over the summer. There may have been some issues with payroll recently, but could the superintendent provide some kind of information about the payroll system update? Thank you.
Mr. Stradian, that was provided in not last week's weekly, was it the weekly before? That information was already provided.
But that's information that we can't share with the public. But what about to the public as far as update to the payroll system? Is that confidential? Update to software systems?
I really don't know what the implications are of that question.
Can the board I'm just asking for the board to be updated on what the change to the payroll system was recently.
We shared it in the update, and as you know, we're in negotiation, so we're not going to comment on the floor any additional payroll systems because we provided it in 2 weeks ago in the weekly, what occurred with the payroll system.
Mr. President, if you could, going forward, because it's kind of confusing here tonight. So when we take a vote, can you say motion passed or motion failed? Because a couple times everybody's been asking, I'm like, did it pass, did it fail? And usually when you take a vote and you query the board, you say motion passed or motion failed.
The clerk would say that.
Okay, can we do that? Because a couple times I didn't hear it and I didn't understand.
Sure,
Did it
that makes
pass or did it
sense.
fail?
We'll do that. Mr. Lamar.
Something related to what you were talking about. I know that some of or at least it's come to my attention that some of the teachers did not receive the full compensation they were expecting on the first check of the year. You may not, was that resolved?
So 2 weeks ago in the weekly, we gave an entire explanation. If you go back to that weekly and you still have questions, please feel free to send it to us. It is the same information I would say to Mr. Lamar. We righted some practices in the district based on some of our payroll actions. So if you...
What I'm speaking of is, it's my understanding that there were teachers that did not receive their step increase starting with this first check of the year.
If you go back to that weekly, I don't know who. If you would direct them directly to me, if you are not comfortable with Ms. Roaring, but we did provide an explanation, and so everyone received their step in their lane. We have a big system. If someone was missed, we perhaps had a couple of opportunities that did happen, but we righted them immediately. But if there is still someone out there who you know of, please feel free to send them directly to me.
That's all I wanted to know.
All right, thank you.
Item 7.5, financial questions. Ms. Boulay?
Yes, so from 7-6 forward, actually before I was elected, I asked questions 1 through 4 that I will read. These questions have subsequently been sent 3 times, and I would like the opportunity to read these questions aloud. I believe there's a list of them as well. So the first 4 are in regard to ESSER money, so COVID funds. So the district received substantial monies from different sources to be used as prescribed, and I have asked for an accounting of all the dollars that have been received to date for that money. And secondly, an accounting of how that money was spent. The second thing that I asked for is an accounting of how much money is still due us. From September and through June of this year, there is another portion that's coming in, and then I believe it ends. So during a presentation last spring, I believe it was Ms. Roaring or Mr. Rothman who gave an explanation of the shortfalls that will occur, the jobs that we had hired that we will not be able to sustain, most likely, when these funds end. So in an effort to counteract those potential layoffs, I asked for this information so that if the board needed to redirect funds in any way to save those jobs or to save whatever else is being used for that money, that we would have an opportunity to do that. That information has not been provided. The next to last question is in regard to what we spent on conferences during the 22-23 school year, and the rationale for that was that it's a large expense item, and if we knew what that number was and we knew how much we needed to save, that we could pull from there if we knew what that was, or at least to consider it. And the last question I had was an exploratory question that I became aware of through another public meeting that I was at, and that was if this district received any sort of revenue unanticipated from the opening of the casino in any way, to clear that up, and if they did, how were those unanticipated funds used? So those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's just questions that we don't expect you to answer them right here, so if you could answer them at a future date soon, that'd be great.
Those are also the questions that Ms. Boulay foiled, so I was under the impression that they would be provided within the foil. So if we're doing the work to provide the information for the foil, do we provide Ms. Boulay with the foil? How do you want us to proceed?
I had to foil the information because no one would give me the information. So if you are stating now that you will provide these answers to the public, then I would withdraw my FOIL request.
That concludes my items. Oh, Mr. Lamar.
Just while we're on financials, I do have one thing I would like clarification on. The information you sent, or that was sent to us in the BOE Weekly regarding the discrepancy in the state funding was very helpful, but it didn't seem to, I think I'm reading one of the lists wrong. On the link that we were advised to go look at on the district website for our projections, the line item that looks to me to be the one that mates up with foundation aid is the estimated basic formula gen aid. But the estimated basic formula gen aid in our projection is 160, and the foundation aid, according to the state website that came to us, was 173. Is there something that I'm missing that needs to be added into one of those or taken away from the other?
Yes.
I figured there was.
In the revenue estimate that we shared out with the board, we explicitly separated out the set-asides that we continue to talk to you about. So the portion of the foundation aid is a set-aside for E, and a portion of the foundation aid is also a set-aside for community schools. And that's why those numbers aren't tying exactly unless you add them together. You're welcome.
That concludes my items. Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Mr. McLemore.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the Human Resources agenda, I have items 8.1 through 8.12 for your consideration on tonight.
Would any board member like to separate out any of these items? I have a motion and a second on these. Roll call.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Mr. Lamar? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Straight Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerelli?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my items.
Thank you, Mr. McLemore. Assistant Superintendent of Finance, Ms. Roaring.
Thank you. The Finance Division presents items 9.1 to 9.11 this evening for routine consent.
Would anyone like to separate any of these items? Ms. Boulay?
9.11.
9.11. Any other separated? Mr.
Yeah, I'd
Howard?
like to separate out item number 9.6.
9.6. Any other items? We're going to have a motion for 9.1 through 9.10 minus 9.6.
So moved.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Straight Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Item 9.6. Can I have a motion and a second?
Move the table.
We have to add it first. We have to add it
Almost a
first.
second. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Somebody-
Motion to table.
Okay. Can I have a second? Roll call. To table.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Lamar?
No.
Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Straight Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
No.
Mr. Bergerelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Yes. Motion to table passed.
Thank you. 9.11. Can I have a motion and a second?
Second?
Any questions on this item?
I do.
Ms. Boulay?
I have a quick question. I don't remember ever seeing the Orange County District Attorney give us $5,000. I'm just curious as to more detail about this. Yeah.
Dr. Freeman Mac?
So the donation from the Orange County District Attorney's Office is to cultivate and create sustaining communication and engagement with law enforcement and the Newburgh and Large City School District community, parents and families. We are in the process of creating a program that we would call Friday Night Lights that will incorporate students participating in enrichment activities with law enforcement, just to increase communication and understanding between families, students, and the community as a whole.
Thank you.
I'll add a little bit more to that. Thank you. In addition to that, really about crime prevention, and we know that, you know, the hours where our students are disengaged are really during the hours of 3 to 7, so we want to ensure, and the district attorney wants to support our students in our community to, you know, have a way to prevent incidents, crimes, and just more of a mentoring type of program in one of our middle schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call on this item?
Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Straight Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
That concludes my items.
Thank you, Ms. Roaring. Assistant Superintendent, CIO, DPO, Ms. Peterson?
I have items 10.1 to 10.5 for your consent tonight.
Would any board member like to separate out any of these items? Mr. Lamar?
I don't want to break all of these out, but when these come before us, a lot of the programs and things that we're approving, paying for, we just get a copy of the the invoice, basically. It'd be great if moving forward, we could just have a description of what it is we're paying for. What did we use it for?
Yes.
It's inside the admin content, so if you go into the resolution, much of that is embedded in the content.
You have to log into Board Docs, and there is an admin content.
And it tells you.
That I've reported for each resolution.
Let us know if you need additional information after you go into the admin content, but you have to log into it. All right? Mr. Levinstein promises to help you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Roll call. Oh, we don't have a motion and second? Motion and second to this item.
Motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Paletti?
Yes. Thank you. That concludes my item.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Item 11, Assistant Superintendent Curriculum Instruction Elementary. Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. President. Elementary Curriculum Instruction presents item 11.1 as a consent agenda item.
Can I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Any questions on this item? Roll call.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my item.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Assistant Superintendent Curriculum Instruction Secondary, Dr. Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have items 12.1 and 12.2 for your consideration this evening.
Would any board member like to separate out any of these items? Okay. Motion and a second, please.
Second.
Any questions? Sure.
Is big picture learning, it sounds like there's great things going on at West. Is that something that at some point we could just recreate the structure that they have put in place without actually having to work with them?
Right. The contract, the annual renewal of the contract provides for both staff development, pieces that involve student instruction. It is a proprietary program. It is possible to have programs that are similar in structure, but it would not be a big picture program. And the format of the program, which provides both on-site coaching for students and staff, as well as professional engagement with other educators participating in the program, has been very beneficial to the district and to our students. We have a very high success rate of achievement for our students, both in their internship programs and their placement, as well as in their academic studies. Part of that may be attributed to the fact that it's a small setting, but nonetheless, it's a very successful program.
So we're building capacity with professional development, and hopefully down the road, one day we won't call it big picture. Hopefully they're not listening. Eve's mute me for a second, but perhaps that's something that we'll look forward to, implementing in our other schools, because it's a great program and we see the benefits of it. So essentially, that's what you want to know. Are we building capacity? Can we grow the program in other places? That's something that we should potentially look to do, because it's another way of learning.
Mr. Howard.
Yes, and also, I believe part of that money is the Big Bang thing that they have every summer. And it's a professional development program that's incredible, that they call people from all the big picture learning schools. They come out, they do professional development and things like that. But to the superintendent, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think we should try to look forward to building out that program, because that big picture program is doing incredible things in this district. It has a 7-year run of incredible results, and it works. It works, and what really made me a little disappointed last year, you know, it's such an incredible program, and kids compete to get in there, and some kids get turned away because there's not enough space. And at some point in time, I would hope that we can build out capacity so that we can accept more kids into that type of program.
No, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm supporting Mr. Lamar. Mr. Lamar indicated that it's a great program. How do we get more of it? So I said we're learning through PD so we can build out our programs in our school. So that's really what I was saying. Mr. Lamar, is that what you understood? So that was really, yes, I concur. It's a great program. We want to have more, just using our own PD.
Absolutely.
And building capacity.
Roll call?
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Straight-Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Farrell. Assistant Superintendent for Exceptional Learners, Dr. Farrell.
We have one item for your consideration this evening, 13.1.
Can I have a motion in a second? Any questions? Ms. Boulay?
Okay. If I did the math correct on here and adding up the lines, there are 33 students who had their IEPs approved by September 15th. So my question is, how many more students still need those IEPs finalized?
I don't have that number for you this evening, but we will provide it hopefully in the Friday board update, if not the following week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call?
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Straight-Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard? Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
And that concludes those items. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farrell. We're good? Can I make a motion, can I have a motion in a second to close this meeting out?
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Straight-Iron?
Yes.
Ms. Boulay?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Duray? Mr. Howard?
Thank you. Have a good day.